So the Springfield Armory Echelon came out, and despite it being one of the best featured guns, if not the best featured gun at the price point, you guys were immediately like, where's the compact? And then for some reason, Springfield didn't release the compact immediately, but they've released it now with the 4.0C Echelon, which is the compact. It is the Glock 19 to the Glock 17 of the original Echelon. So one thing, and I'll put this on the table faster than you can say, this guy's shilling for Springfield Armory in the comments. I legitimately believe the Echelon to be one of, if not the best pistols in the price point that it's offered at. It's got the best feature set of the pistols out there, full stop. The one thing the Canik and Walter bros can say is the trigger's not as nice as a Canik or a Walter. Fair enough, but it's not that far behind and it does everything else better than those guns. Yeah, I said it. And I've been consistent on this because those of you who've reached out to me asking after, what gun in this price point would be a good option, I have referred the Springfield Armory Echelon because I do think that it's one of the better featured pistols in the segment. If you hang out to the end, I'll tell you about two other pistols, there they are, that you can learn about that are also slept on in this segment. And I'll show my work on that now because really it comes down to the fact it is an FCU pistol with a swappable grip frame, but realistically, I don't know why you'd swap it because the polymer grip frames that Springfield is using are incredible. They've got the little like micro pyramid textures that really bites into you when you squeeze them and really stays planted. But when you kind of rub up against them, it doesn't tear up your smooth, supple daddy tummy. The frame has these nice little ledges, and these are consistent on the 15-round version of the gun as well. Might as well use the gun we're talking about to show off the features, right? There's these little ledges up here that aren't super fat, but they are noticeable when you're gripping the gun, and they work as great kind of memory points to make sure you're gripping the gun well. The contours of the grip are very, very good. It's a little bit wide across the back right there that throws the thumb out just a little bit more than I'd like, but it's still very well done. The trigger, which I'm sure many of you care about, is a flat blade trigger, and as you get to the wall, it's super predictable, super flat. There's a slight roll when you release it to keep it from being as crisp as like the Walter triggers, but it's still very, very good, and I would say a close second to what those are. And where I really start to nerd out on the Echelon is the slide design. The front serrations are the best in the segment, hands down. The rear serrations are the best in the segment, hands down, and the optic cut is the best one in the segment because it basically has two sets of holes drilled in the slide. One is spaced for RMR screws and one is spaced for Delta Point Pro screws. So it can accept three different footprints of optics: the RMR, the Delta Point Pro, and the RMS footprint of optics. The slide finish is a super tough, like melanite type finish. It holds up really well. And it just, it's a pretty good looking gun in this segment. The controls are exactly where you would want them to be. It's easy to get on the mag catch, and the slide release is right where it should be. It's not in such a spot that you'll ride it when you're shooting it if you're using a good grip, but when it's time to release the slide, it's right where you'd want it to be, and it is full ambi with the controls on either side. We'll come back to that in the negatives. That's called foreshadowing. So we'll get into how the gun shoots, but I do want to talk about how the gun came to me. Yes, this was a gun sent in by Springfield Armory for video, and they also included this Incog X holster from Safariland. This is the Travis Haley holster, and it's a mighty fine holster, and the Vortex Defender ST was on the gun when it showed up, and that is a really great dot. I'm a big fan of the Defender ST and the Defender XL. See, there's the comp dot, which is basically the Defender XL on the full-size Echelon. Really good dot. The gun is a 9mm only gun, and it comes with two magazines. This is the 15-round flush fit magazine that you see there. It just kind of drops the grip out, very nicely, and then there is a extended base plate that comes on the other magazine. I don't know how many rounds are supposed to be in it, so I won't tell you. You can read the website as well as I can, but it has the extended magazine look. So if you're using something like a sidecar holster like the Incog, then you've got a reload ready to rock. So those are kind of the features that make me like this gun. Shooting the gun is kind of like you would expect. I had both of the guns out on the range, the full-size Echelon and the compact Echelon. And as you would imagine, the full-size Echelon shoots just a little bit nicer than the compact one. It's just a little bit longer of a grip, and there is, a little bit more weight that it helps kind of keep the gun be a little bit more tame. but this gun keeps up with, you know, any other compact as far as how it shoots, weighing, you know, 24 ounces like it does. When I was going fast, I felt like I had excellent control of the gun because of how the texture is accomplished on the frame. Very, very nice. And a nice feature is that the texture actually goes all the way up under the slide. I don't know how many times I have to say it in a video, but the most important part for your support hand is right there on the frame. And that's because when the gun is wanting to lift, that's the point of your hand that is making the most contact. So if you've got the best traction there, it becomes easier to help kind of resist the turning moment of the gun in recoil. I don't know why we stop on a lot of guns, including the Glocks, putting texture right there, but that's the sweet spot, and this has got it there. I tested this with a variety of ammunition of hollow points, and it shot them all wonderfully. Actually, pretty good accuracy, as you can kind of see there. 15 yards with the NATO went okay. That is the silver tip 147 grain. This is the Hornady Black 115s, does real well with that. And this is the ASP 124. It can tighten up better than that. I just didn't have great trigger pulls. I was also happy to see that when shooting some Winchester 124 grain NATO, a spicier round, the, you know, recoil impulse wasn't notably a lot sharper. Some guns get a little bit sharper with heavier loads. This shoots just about the same. Buffalo Creek ran like a champion out of this. That's a really good range load, and thank you to Buffalo Creek for supporting the channel. If you're curious about Buffalo Creek, you can check out the link in the comments to my website where there's some more information. The trigger pull is, as I mentioned, it's kind of a good bit of take up to depress the trigger safety, and then you're on a hard wall, and then just a little bit of over travel. Very good, you know, appropriately weighted trigger pull. It's very predictable, so it makes it easier to kind of get precision when you're pinning your ears back and aiming at small distant targets. Now, I did carry the gun for about 2 weeks, and it conceals pretty well in this Incog X. I would probably look at a wedge or something to kind of kick the butt back in towards my body. But I can tell you that the texture on the grip does not tear up your smooth, supple daddy tummy, but it's also on the side of this base pad for the magazine, which was annoying, so I took a piece of duct tape and the problem went away. That was tearing up my smooth, supple daddy tummy. The Incog is kind of a cool holster because all of the clips are on the gun side, so when you need to take your pants off to do things with your pants off, I know you've never really thought about why that would be important, but now you will. But the holster comes with one side of the pants and your pants come off no problem, which is a nice touch for these sidecar style holsters. If the magazine is on this side, then you've got like to undo the clip and all that, and that's just not a problem with the Incog. Plus, it says right on the box that if you use an Incog, then Travis Haley will come hang out with you if you do barrel rolls. I'm sure any moment now Travis is going to come high-five me. I'm just certain of it. Now let me get you a couple negatives and we'll kick it over to the two guns that I feel like are slept on in this segment. The only real negatives I have to speak of, as I mentioned, just kind of the grip tang is not as sculpted as I would like it to be. It feels like it's throwing my thumb out a little bit further than I want it to the side. It's not too bad, but it did take a little bit of adjustment. And as a result, there was a very slight learning curve in figuring out how to mount my thumb on the pistol, but it took less than a magazine to kind of figure out how to put the pressure there to control the gun and recoil. The other negative, and this only came up through carrying the gun, is that these ambi mag releases, if you're carrying it in a holster that does not cover the mag release on both sides, specifically the outside is really the side that probably matters the most, is if you like bump into the counter when you're washing your hands, you can make the magazine pop free. And what that kind of looks like is this, and it does that. And then, you know, this will start to try and come away from you on all that. So that was something that I discovered I didn't realize I didn't like about ambidextrous mag releases, but I'd prefer it if it were a swappable mag release and not a true ambi. And other than that, that's pretty much it. Those were really kind of the negatives with this pistol. So now the time has come with other pistols that I feel like are slept on in this segment and how they relate to the Echelon 4.0C. The first is the Walther PDP-F. Yes, I know I say Walter and not Walther. Deal with it. But the PDP-F, in my opinion, is the best polymer frame version of the PDP that is out there. The slide is just a little bit easier to rack. However, the slide is super duper fat. The trigger is the best one in the segment with just a super precise release. Very, very short, very quick reset, very positive resetting. That said, I prefer the thickness of the Echelon slide. I prefer the fact that the optic mounts directly into the Echelon. I like the grip texture just a little bit better. The texture on the Walter guns is honestly very, very, very good, like one of the best in the segment. But I just like this one a little bit better, and it's not because it shoots better, it's because it's not as abrasive if you actually carry the thing. So the PDP-F 4.0 is an awesome gun as well, but there's another one that you should know about, and that is the Kimber R7 Carbon Compact. That's R7cc. The R7cc is not technically the same like double stack. It's just a little bit thinner than the Echelon and the other guns in the segment. It's very thin. It's roughly the size of like a 365 macro. It's got an excellent grip texture coupled with a hump in the grip that allows you to get behind the gun very nicely with grip texture that won't let go. It's got the same thumb ledges put there as well. Interestingly, there is no hood on the barrel poking through the top of the slide, which means the optic never gets gassed up, which is nice, and the optic is direct mounted. It comes with night sights as well. The trigger on the Carbon carry is not quite as good, the Carbon Compact. The trigger on the Carbon Compact is not quite as good as it is on the Echelon. It's still a great trigger. It's one of the better ones. It's just a little bit different feeling, a little bit more of a rolling break. It shares the AMB mag release as the other gun, but the price tag is just a little bit heavier than the Echelon is likely to be. That, and I would say that the aesthetics of the Kimber are kind of unique. We'll use that term, unique. So for various reasons, I would prefer either of these guns, the PDP-F or the Carbon Compact, including the 4.0C over the Glock 19. Not that the Glock 19 is a bad gun, not that this is going to do anything different from a Glock 19. It just, you don't have to get new sights for it. It's got better optic mounting system. It's got a better trigger. It's got better grip texture. It's just got everything a little bit better than the Glock 19. Now, is the difference so much that you're going to want to run out and replace guns? It's really tough to make that argument. It's very, very difficult. But if you don't have anything in the segment, the 4.0C is pretty solid. If you're curious about the PDP-F or the R7 Carbon Compact, I've got videos on those as well that you can watch here.